Hi, I'm Thomas Bowles, Prince William County Agricultural Extension Agent. Welcome to our video.
Welcome, everyone. This is a presentation by Devin Biley, who's state plant pathologist with Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. He's going to talk to us about beech leaf disease, which is present in Prince William County. Thank you guys very much for joining, and thank you very much, Devin, for agreeing to present for us today.
Thanks for having me, Valerie. Sorry about this intercom. I don't know if you can hear this over my head. But I'm going to talk about identification of beech leaf disease. Basically, just show symptoms, how to identify it in the field, and then I'll go over a little bit of just the history and what we know about it. So I was able to capture a nice picture of the critter. You can see it right here. It is a nematode, and it's mostly got it in focus. They're pretty hard to get a good picture of because they swarm around a lot. Oh my God. Can you hear that intercom?
Just a little bit. It's okay. No worries.
It's like right in my ear. All right, so what is beech leaf disease? It is a foliar nematode, Litholinchus crenati mccannai. It was described in 2020 from American and European beech as a new subspecies of Litholinchus crenati in Japan. And so how it got here and how it was introduced is still unclear. But the infection by the nematode does induce dramatic changes. It distorts the leaf, it creates galling, and it impacts photosynthesis, gas exchange, and transport of water. And as you imagine, that really affects the ability for the tree to its vigor and survive. And so once the tree is infected, it's associated with tree dieback and mortality within 7 years of detection. And then it's still unclear whether it's just the nematode that's causing these symptoms, or if there's a complex and there's other microorganisms that may hitchhike with the nematode or be associated with it, and maybe actually manifest the symptoms themselves without the nematode or without the microorganism. So that's still unclear. And so there's other foliar nematodes causing leaf galls. You have the Litholinchus crenati in Japan, and that is reported to cause some minor dieback on the beech trees out there, nothing to the extent that we're seeing, most likely because they co-evolved together. And then there's another species in New Zealand that affects hardwoods, once again, kind of a minor pest. And then there are aphelinchoides species that you find pretty commonly on landscape ferns and in ornamental plants in nurseries. So these are fairly common foliar nematodes that are spread through soil splashing and irrigation. So the ferns that they are infected are low to the ground, low to the soil, get splashed upon during rain events, as well as the nursery plants. They're cramped conditions. They have overhead irrigation that causes splashing. And so that's how those nematodes spread. But it's really unusual to have a parasitic foliar nematode that resides in the forest canopy and has spread to the extent that it has. It's pretty much unheard of. This is a first time for such a widespread foliar nematode in the forest. But these are symptoms of aphelinchoides species on other plants. A good symptom ID would see bounded by the veins. So nematodes can't travel over the veins in the leaf, so a lot of the symptoms will look very angular and divided by the veins. So how does it spread? Well, nobody really knows. The long distance dispersal, it hitchhiked on nursery stock or wood or invertebrate. And then regionally, it may be spread by birds who feed on the beech trees, ingest the nematodes, and then excrete somewhere else far away. And nobody's proved that. That's practically probably the most logical answer, but we still don't know how it's being dispersed so quickly. And then locally within the forest, it's going to be a wind-borne rain They need a film of water to move around on a leaf or on a bark of a tree or something. And then maybe snails or spider mites may aid dispersal in the forest. And so Lynn Carta, who described this species, did fulfill Koch's postulates with the nematode, and they did do artificial inoculations. And when they inoculated the leaf, it failed to produce symptoms. But when they inoculated a bud in the previous year, and then the following spring it leafed out, the leaves would have symptoms on it. And so what they're finding out is that the nematodes overwinter inside the bud of the beech tree, survive inside the bud, and then in the spring when it leaves out, the nematodes are already present and they have food to feed upon. And that's really apparent when you survey for this, because when you find symptoms in the spring and you look at the leaf under the microscope, you may find 1 or 2 nematodes, and then you can go back to that same tree later in the summer and pick the same leaves, and a leaf will be filled with hundreds of nematodes. So there's nematodes that are overwintering inside the bud. They may just be a few of them, and then once the season and it leaves out, that's when they really proliferate. And by the end of the season, their numbers are really high within the leaves. And that's where you see the most extreme symptoms. And so they found out that the nematodes could enter the buds on their own, but they entered more easily when the buds were damaged. And that could be mechanical damage or could be winter injury, numerous things. And so the distribution, it was first observed in Ohio in 2012. By 2016, it was found in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. And to date, it can pretty much be found throughout the entire New England. And so that's pretty incredible that within a decade, this nematode has spread throughout the entire New England. You know, for something that doesn't have wings, that's unbelievably fast. That's very cool. So the first confirmation was in 2021 in Prince William Forest Park. We found 3 scattered infestations in the park. And then in 2022, it was confirmed in Fairfax County. And some of these parks might have been confirmed this year. I think Hemlock Overlook Park was this year. But it's been found in Burke Lake Park, Fountainhead Park, and Hemlock Overlook. And then this year, it was also confirmed by Bartlett Trees in Stafford and Loudoun counties outside of Fredericksburg and Leesburg. So it is spreading in Virginia. This is within Prince William Forest Park. These are our points. I think that's Valerie's Point right up there. And then this is the main infestation site that has grown significantly. From the first year that we surveyed it to last year, it's probably quadrupled in size. And so we are monitoring that. You know, hopefully I can go back to that this year and check it out. And then this is the distribution map within the United States. This is as February 2023. So not every county in Virginia is on there, but you can see how much it's spread and so quickly. It's just really interesting and unbelievable how a nematode can spread that fast and that long of a distance. And then Tosh made this nice little map for y'all. This is the counties that we have found that have been officially reported in Virginia. So first was Prince William, Fairfax, and then this year Stafford and Loudoun. And then Forest Service has a very cool ARC map, interaction ARC map that you can use. It shows all the tree species. It doesn't pull up for beech. I don't know why it's not working for beech, but I found this map to kind of see the distribution of where beech is in Virginia. You have a lot up around Fredericksburg, Prince William County. You have a lot along the Potomac River. Caledon State Park is full of beech. You have some nice pockets south of Richmond. Pocahontas State Park is dominant beech park. And then once you go up into the mountains, you can get into northern hardwood forest type where you have birch, maple, and beech types. Down near Mount Rogers, there's a lot of beech. So beech is a strong constituent of our forests in Virginia. So let's get into symptoms. These are early symptoms, so these are not as distinct. You may see these symptoms when the leaves first leaf out in the spring, and you're going to see kind of puckering and galling and early banding. You can see that there is banding and galling, but it's not that distinct yet. If you held this up to the light, you may not see any darkening or anything, but you definitely can see distortion and some galling and the beginning of some banding starting. So when you're surveying in spring, this is kind of what you want to look out for. You want to look at beech leaves that leafed out that just don't look right. And then if you follow up on those leaves shortly, in no time, probably in another month or two, you'll start seeing these dark interveinal banding. And some of the banding may turn necrotic, and then some of it will just keep dark banding. But this is really what you want to look out for. And it's really easy to detect in a forest. If you have your eyes peeled, you should have no problem checking these out, especially when you're underneath a beech tree looking up into the sunlight. This dark banding really is distinct. And then through the end of the summer, you're going to have a lot of distortion. You may see kind of the banding turn yellow. It's going to start galling. The leaves will start feeling kind of leathery and crinkly, and they'll have different textures. They'll turn a very dark green. So by the end of the summer, it's really easy to identify. And so this is, I used to work up in Pennsylvania. This is some defoliation of trees up in Pennsylvania. You can see it's usually it's kind of like a lower crown progression up usually, but not always. And then this is in Prince William Forest Park in 2021. You can see kind of some asymptomatic. These are probably infected a little bit. You can see a little bit right here, but somewhat healthy looking leaves next to infected leaves, where you can see that dark interveinal banding and the bands are starting to turn yellow. And then on the picture on the right, once you see it like this, you have hundreds of nematodes inside of this one leaf. Once you see it turning leathery and crinkly, and you see that galling, those leaves are just completely infested with nematodes. It's really difficult to get a good shot in the forest, but this is kind of like what you'll see as an understory. An infected beech tree will start losing its leaves, usually in its understory and under canopy first, and then progress all the way up. And you'll see these really dark green leaves that are almost black. Yeah. And then this is a symptom that I can't find in any literature, but what we noticed is that a lot of the mid-canopy trees that are infected are bending over and snapping. So this may be because they're not photosynthesizing anymore and they're losing vigor and they're starting to die. I don't really know, but this is something we noticed at Prince William Park, all these trees bending over. And so I want to go back this year and see and check on these trees and see how they're doing. So there are just two lookalikes that you want to be familiar with. There's a beech aphid, and a beech aphid does create these yellow banding, and it will fool you. I mean, if you have your peripheral vision and you're surveying out in the woods and you see this yellow banding, it'll fool you and it'll catch your eye. But then when you collect the leaf and you turn it upside down, you will not see any dark banding. The leaf sides, the edges will curl, and it's kind of like a pockmark kind of stippling that you'll see on the leaf. And if you peel back these curls, you'll actually find either aphid skins or the aphids themselves. So once you're familiar with this, what beech aphids look like, it's not hard to distinguish between beech leaf disease, but it's something you definitely need to keep an eye out for. So if you hold it out up into light, you can see the beech aphid does not have dark banding, and the beech leaf disease has dark banding. So that's pretty distinct to differentiate the two. And then another one is beech uranium mite. This one's not so obvious. It'll create basically chlorotic spots on the top of the leaf. Once you look on the underside of that leaf, you'll see the brown egg masses. So pretty easy to identify, but sometimes those yellow chlorotic lesions will coalesce together and create actual banding. And so that's when it may fool you, and you may see that and look like, oh, it looks like beech leaf disease. You flip it over, you can see all the egg masses on the underside. Yeah, and I mean, that's about it. Sorry if I went too fast. If you have any questions, please ask. But if you do survey for beech leaf disease, the Department of Forestry does have a Survey 123 app. I can say, if you give me your email, I can send you the link, or if you can just copy this down. I know that's not easy to copy, but we would appreciate it. That's kind of where we all keep track of where we're surveying. So beech leaf disease is not regulated by the USDA. It's not regulated by Virginia Department of Agriculture. It's not regulated at all. But we do receive grant money to survey for it as for a PPA forest pest grant. And so we are interested in know the distribution in Virginia, and more boots on the ground, the better. And so if you want to go look for it and survey for it, please enter your data into the Survey 123 app. And then if you do think you have a positive sample, send it into the lab and we can confirm it for you. And that's pretty short. I got a 20-minute presentation. I didn't think I could do 45. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Devin. Let's see, it looks like we do have a question. I think I saw one coming from Grant. He asks, is it possible to ID buds that have been affected and then remove those buds?
Yes. Yes, you can dissect the buds. So if you're doing like a winter survey, you can dissect the buds and find the beech or the nematodes in there. I am not a nematologist, so I'm a general diagnostician. So there will get to a point where my specialty, I would have to probably send a sample off to a nematologist, but it is possible that to identify just from the buds themselves.
And then Linda asks, is there any treatment for beech leaf disease?
Not that I know of. I have heard of some preliminary research from Bartlett trees doing some treatments on beech leaf disease, and I cannot give you, I'm not familiar enough with it to really give you information about it, but there is something in the works, I believe. The efficacy, I'm not sure. If it's going to be something that if you have a prized beech tree that you want to protect in your yard, it may work for that, but nothing that would be practical in a forestry scenario.
I think I remember at one point there was more concern over younger beech trees, but has that shifted a little bit where it can affect more overstory upper canopy trees as well?
Yeah, so or from my survey experience, I first see it in understory, saplings, sprout, you know how beeches sprout prolifically. So I'll see it on the saplings first and kind of mid-understory canopy tree. And then once it really is established, that's when it starts and how it does it. I'm not sure if these things wiggle up the trunks of the trees or what. Then you'll start seeing it kind of progress higher and higher in the canopy to the point where it's affecting the top of the canopy. But usually you'll see the understory saplings affected first.
And then Linda asks, is this a threat for home landscape trees? So I guess that's a yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, both American and European beech is affected. So I think even like your purple beeches and your prized landscape beeches that you'd want, they're all susceptible. So I would say they're probably less susceptible if they're in, let's say, a full sun, not in a closed canopy forest. So you're going to have, let's say, theoretically, they are spread by birds. A bird would have to poop directly on that tree and then spread. And you could probably manage it pretty well if you just had one tree. I would say it's less likely to get infected as a landscape tree, but it's still just as susceptible.
And then Suzanne asks, what is the long-term prognosis for beech forests?
Yeah, that's the big question. Beeches have been hit so hard, with beech bark disease. I don't know. And the big question is it's spread so much in New England and so fast. How does it do in warmer weather in the South? Beech is mainly a constitute of northern states. I mean, I don't know, besides the southern Appalachians down in North Carolina, I don't know how far beech really extends down into the South. I mean, maybe just along the Appalachians down into like Georgia, and then that's about it. So I could see it spreading all the way down that line. But like, how does it do in warmer weather? It seems to be doing just fine in Virginia climate. Will it do just fine in North Carolina's climate, South Carolina's climate? Who knows? But it seems to like the climate of the Eastern United States for sure. So I don't know the answer to that question.
Linda asks, is this a death sentence for an infected tree?
Yeah, like once again, I don't think it's an automatic death sentence. Trees are so resilient. They're amazing, amazing critters. They have the ability to compartmentalize infections. But as you can guess, if a worm is totally inhibiting their ability to photosynthesize, within a certain amount of time, they're going to perish. So I think if your trees are extremely vigorous, maybe it is a landscape tree in full sun and it's fertilized, it's in a good site conditions, then it may be able to warrant the infection. I don't know. So I think it depends on the site conditions as well as the vigor of the individual plants.
Hmm. And then Grant had a clarification on his earlier question. So he wanted to see if he could look at the bud and then tell they are infected without having to dissect the bud.
No, I don't know if you can visually see it without a microscope. I would recommend reading Lynn Carter's description of the nematode. It's available online. She gets into that. And then there's also a new paper, John Eisenbach from Virginia Tech and a couple others. They're describing the actual mechanics that cause the distortion in the beech tree itself, like the physiological mechanics. And so that's coming out, I think, in the next couple of months. That would be an interesting paper to read, but you can look into Lynn Carter's description and that might give you a little bit more of what to look for, but I think it would be pretty hard to be able to recognize an infested bud opposed to a not infested. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other questions anyone had? All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Devin. That was great information. We'll definitely keep on the lookout. Hopefully we don't see it too many other places, but we will let you know if we do.
Yeah, please do. And I know that was short and sweet, but hopefully that was at least helpful to at least familiarize yourself with the symptoms. And if you do survey, yeah, please do upload it into the Survey 123 app. That's really helpful.
All right, thanks again, and thank you all for attending this presentation today.